Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Acid Mammoth Caravan, out March 5th on Heavy Psych Sounds. This album has 5 tracks, 40 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. These guys are from Greece, they're a doom stoner metal band, and this album represents its title, Caravan. This album moves very slowly, just like a caravan passing through the desert. Now you could see those elements, that slow moving process built in its soundscape, but also in its structure. This is a record that's very linear. No ups, no downs, no peaks, no valleys, no variations whatsoever. It just moves in one direction, very cohesive, very linear, very strong, very tight, and just moves very slowly. It's a slow burning process as far as the listener and what you have to do in order to digest this album. I would have liked to see some interlude tracks in order to give you a sense of dynamics, in order to give you a sense of change, and it would allow the listener to better evaluate the record, but also better process the experience that the album has in store. I don't think adding a couple of interlude tracks would have hurt the atmosphere or it would have hurt the overall experience of the album, but it would make the listener feel like things were changing, would give you a chance of resetting every so often. Right now you don't have that chance, you're in it and you're in it from the beginning to the end, and sometimes it feels like you really have to labor yourself through it in order to get through each and every single song. Now, once you get into the soundscape of the album, I love how this album is put together. It has an old school feel, it has a dirty sound to it, it feels very organic, it feels like a live recording, a live demo recording, one take and that is it. That's the kind of experience that you're going to get out of this album. It feels like they're in your living room playing in front of you in a live setting. I think that's very important for them. It's very important for this record to have that nature, to have that soundscape, and it works extremely well for these 5 tracks. Now, within that sound, there are different elements that really move that experience, that really move the needle and give you that substance, that robust substance that the soundscape of this album really carries. One of them is the bass. I love how chunky it is, how much volume it has, and it really creates the bass line that allows everything else to be built upon. It's really the roadmap in terms of how you travel from one track to the other and how the tracks are built. It's the spinal cord of this record, and it is the spinal cord of every single song in it. Now, as you go into the next element, the drums, I felt like they started from that same perspective of being very consistent, but they offer slightly variations. They almost became the heartbeat of the album. While the bass is the spinal cord, the drums are definitely the heartbeat that really pushes the album forward, that gives the record a little bit of momentum, that changes ever so slightly, providing heaviness, providing the right tempos, the right movement in order for the tracks to feel slightly different and feel like they're at least pushing you towards where you need to go. The next element is the guitars, one of the more dynamic ones on this album. And it's not extremely dynamic. It's not like you're going to get one sound on one track and a different approach on another. No, they still stay very close to home. But I feel like they try to bring 2 different factors to the table. They try to bring heaviness, sound, this gritty, raw approach, and at the same time, melody and melancholy. And because they were not quite sure which one to go with, I think they went with both, and sometimes merging them together on a track in order to create its uniqueness, to create its own soundscape, to create its own fingerprint. And I think they did a wonderful job with that, because the guitars at times feel dark, feel melancholic. The melody that they carry brings that to the forefront, brings that to the surface. And in some tracks, they stripped away that melody, they strip away that melancholy, and just becomes gritty, raw, chunky, working together with the bass in order to give you this sense of spinning your wheels, of dragging yourself through the mud, definitely present on a lot of the tracks on this record. Last but not least, you have the vocals, perhaps the most consistent element of them all. Because what you get on the first song, vocally, it's exactly what you get on the last track. But I love the tone, I love the clean vocals, I love how they sound, and they bring some melody with them, they bring some melancholy with them. So sometimes where the guitars drop out, as far as providing those elements, the vocals are still there giving it to it. So the song still has that same atmosphere, it becomes unchanged. One element of the vocals that I really enjoy is the sense of movement. The way the vocals are recorded on this album and the way they come into the mix, they always feel like they're traveling. Slowly, but they're traveling. So it gives the sense of movement to this record. A record that moves very slowly needs all the dynamic aspects that it can hold on to. The vocals and how they were recorded, the perception that you get as a listener definitely moves the needle. It definitely gives you that sense of movement within the songs themselves. Overall, I really enjoy this album. I feel that for the fans of the band, for the fans of the genre, this one is going to be a home run because it has all the elements that you come to expect. It has all the elements that you need in order for you to gravitate towards it. Like I said, personally, I would have liked to see some interlude tracks because I think the album lacked a little bit of movement, or at least the perception of movement. I didn't want them to change the dynamics of what this record is all about or the DNA of the band, but giving the listener a little bit of a tool in order for you to better process the record, in order for you to better move across it, it's definitely welcome, and I think this album lacks on that front. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Psychedelic Wasteland. I love this track. It's really an interesting track. It builds up. It starts off with a very prolonged intro built into the song, but then once it gets there, it really feels that it's strong. It feels like it's growing. It has that sense of movement. It has that sense of expanding its sound. You start to bring melody in. You start to bring some melancholy in. The guitars sound very chunky. They work well with the bass to create that big volume, that big presence that just seems to get bigger and bigger as the track progresses. The guitars stay very consistent. They don't deviate at all. What you get at the beginning as you morph into that bigger sound is exactly what you're going to get all the way as it ends. Same thing with the vocals, staying very consistent in the approach, in the tone, in the delivery, all the way through. The drums become the heartbeat. In this song, you really feel it. They come in as the heartbeat, pumping energy, pumping fluidity into the track, moving the track along, allowing the track to really gain some momentum as it progresses. The guitar solo on this song is outstanding, not just because of how it sounds, but also where it was placed and how it does not break the track at all. It captures the essence, it captures the atmosphere of the track in its sound, and then it represents it to the fullest. I love the guitar solo. It's just perfect, perfect delivery, perfect construction, put in the right spot in order to really make this song more vibrant, to give it a little bit more life. Next is Ivory Towers. Another track that has this slow built in, that has this slow intro that allows you to kind of ease yourself into the track. It creates an atmosphere. The vocals are very consistent all the way through, but that is something that is also true on every single song on this album. There's not a lot of deviations as far as the vocals are concerned, or any deviations at all. And in this track, they stay very consistent. The bass is very dirty, it's very raw. It comes across slightly more on this song. I felt that at times it really pushed itself into the forefront. There were other times where it was hidden a little bit behind it, but it was always the substance, it was always the bass. The volume grows from what the bass is giving you. Everything else is kind of expanding. Our branches coming off of that tree, and the bass is that root, is that spinal cord of the song itself, and I love the sound that it gives. This is a track that has this dirty doom riff, melancholic approach to it from the beginning all the way to the end, creating this very slow moving pathway that you just feel lost in it. I love how this song sounds, I love how it feels, and I love how it progresses without changing too much, staying true to how it started, taking you all the way to the end, and still feeling like you're moving along at it at an easy pace. Love this track, love the construction on this song. Last but not least, Black Dust. This is the last song on the album, perhaps one of the more dynamic songs on the record, so I'm not surprised that they put it last, because this is an album that doesn't change that much or change at all as you move along. So you get into the last song of the record, you're allowed to experiment a little bit. So I felt like this song was perhaps slightly outside the box. Perhaps maybe not outside the box, but at least peaking in terms of what's on the other side of the box. So I like the construction of this track. I like what it has to offer. It has a lot of melody. It offers a little bit of diversity. It offers a little bit of that chunkiness that you got throughout the record, but it also offers a little bit of melody and melancholy. This time not merging these two worlds together to create its own sound, but rather keeping them both together, but in parallel, in order to create two different looks and two different feels as you progress through this track, making it slightly more dynamic, slightly more engaging, and like I said, very different from the previous 4 tracks that the album had to offer. This is it. This is Acid Mammoth with Caravan, out March 5th on Heavy Psych Sounds. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.